Hey, what's up, America? New job numbers have just came in and the data is pitiful. So last month, the United States lost a total of 23,000 jobs. No gain whatsoever. And revised numbers from last month shed 275,000 more jobs. And this is an indicator that the growth in the United States is starting to slow to a fucking crawl. So let's take a look at the numbers that are coming out, and we should all be upset about this. So first of all, here's a chart starting back in January 2022 showing job creation across the United States. And you can see the job creation is starting to falter, and then it's going into heavily negative territory starting in 2025. Look at this pitiful decline. What an absolute failure. When you're looking at this, you're looking at the decline of American growth right here. And then you see that number down 23,000. This has not been a very good Trump presidency for anything other than the stock market and billionaires, has it?
To all MAGA supporters, let me ask you this very simple question. Is this what you meant when you said, make America great again, MAGA? Because tell me how 23,000 jobs are lost in just time of blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the government is focusing more on chasing out who are so-called illegal immigrants. Yeah, this is what you voted for, and the impacts of what you selected or what you chose is coming right back. This is what happens when a person don't make the right choice to make. Let's watch the whole video, and I'm going to be right back with my final conclusion and remarks. And please, as you're watching this video, put your comments and your ideas in the comment section because I review them. And if you have not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, please remember to do so because it helps me a lot. I have a goal of reaching to 1,000 subscribers. And like this video and share it to MAGA supporters that you know.
So total payroll in the United States declined by 23,000. Now the private sector gained 30,000. The government sector lost 53,000. The months of May and June before that had a staggering loss of 103,000 jobs. Now official unemployment here in the United States is 4.1%. But as you know, they don't count people that just simply dropped out of the workforce and can't find employment after a certain time. Labor force participation is at 61.4%, falling more than 250,000 people with revised numbers. Hourly wages have increased this year by 3.2%. Unfortunately, they need to go up 3.5% to meet inflation, so we're below that. And the average duration of being unemployed is now 10.5 weeks. So like I said earlier, the private sector added 30,000 jobs. The government lost 53,000 jobs. Healthcare gained 22,000. Construction gained 22,000. Leisure and hospitality lost 83,000. And financial lost 14,000. Other sectors were basically unchanged. But one of the largest factors here that people need to focus on are numbers being revised down months later. And that seems to be a very prominent thing with the Trump administration, where they'll say you gained 50,000 jobs, then 2 months later they revise it to you losing 80,000 jobs. That happened famously at the beginning of the year when we lost more than 1 million jobs after the numbers initially showed positive gains. So I would go out on a limb here and say that the data is probably not being reported accurately and that we need to wait for revised numbers to get an actual figure of how bad the American economy is really doing. But I'm just going to say that the United States seems to not be growing very fast. As a matter of fact, I would go out on a limb to say maybe coming up in the near future, we may even be shrinking. We just don't know it yet because the numbers aren't truthful. But of course, as you know, during this particular presidency, they're not telling the numbers on purpose right away like every other president has done. So this right here is a national embarrassment.
Economic news under Donald Trump's handling of the economy, July saw a loss of 23,000 jobs. What? I thought Donald Trump was this great business expert. The economy lost 23,000 jobs in July. Yes, it lost 23,000 jobs in July. This is just now being reported by CNBC. It had been projected that 83,000 jobs would be gained. Instead, we have 23,000 jobs lost. That is not a good thing. Employment stayed at 4.1%. Donald Trump became president from Joe Biden. Unemployment was 4%. So it's increased 0.1% right now to date under Donald Trump. More jobs lost. Wonder why you're having trouble paying for all those high increases in prices for food, for gas, for rent, for insurance, for everything else. Guess how much worker wages increased last month? 2 cents. Worker wages increased 2 cents. Your employers are really taking care of you, and under Donald Trump's leadership, workers gained 2 cents. Do you pay for things with an extra 2 cents an hour? I don't think so. On an 8-hour day, that's an extra 16 cents a day. I don't think those numbers work with inflation the way it is under Donald Trump's. Likewise, the people give Donald Trump a 32% approval of his handling of the economy, which means 68% disapprove, and 69% say right now the economy is poor. They're having difficult times. I wonder why, with 2 cent an hour increases and with unemployment like this and 23,000 jobs lost last month. Thank you, Donald Trump. Again, you show what a brilliant businessman you are. And under your leadership of tariffs, of this war on Iran, how greatly the American people are doing, how bigly their wages are going up. 2 cents an hour, Donald. You're doing a great job. Let me know what you think, if you're happy with Donald Trump or not. How are you going to vote in November, blue or red? Let me know. I don't know what I'm going to do with that extra 2 cents an hour. Do you?
When we dug into the numbers, we saw that there are really two special factors.
So this is Kevin Hassett, Trump's director of the National Economic Council, trying to explain why the employment numbers in July were in the negative. The economy lost 23,000 jobs when the Trump administration had originally forecasted growth. But let me let Kevin explain to us what some of those factors are.
One is there was a big decline in government employment, which is partly because of DOGE and the end of the World Cup. Meant that a lot of hospitality workers were then laid off after the World Cup ended. If you take those two effects out, it was about 100,000 job number, which is about consistent with what we expected, and the market expected 88,000. And of course, in the end, the proof will be in the number that we get next month. And so, if you were to get a sequence of numbers like this, then there's not going to be special factors every month.
So, Kevin, let me see if I get this straight. You're telling America that the reason the Trump administration missed the forecast by 128% is that 3 things happened that you didn't expect. And then proceed to tell us that 2 of those 3 unexpected things are DOGE, which was a non-government entity created and allegedly controlled by the Trump administration, and the World Cup ending in July, which the Trump administration and really the whole world has known would end in July for the past 4 years. And then you have the courage to kick the can down the street by telling us, wait until you see how well we do next month. And we need to look at the sequence of numbers. The sequence of numbers? This, Kevin, this is what the sequence of numbers looks like. It's a disaster. So what are you going to tell us for the August numbers, that you didn't expect we'd have sunny days and people would be grilling in their backyard?
So the July jobs report came out this morning, and it is an absolute disaster for Trump. Not just because it showed the economy lost 22,000 jobs in July when they were expecting an addition of 80,000 jobs. Not just because they revised down May and June by another 100,000 jobs. It's a disaster because the report confirms what working Americans already know. It's just only now being shown in the data. That's that the last 18 months has been the worst 18 months for the job market since the Great Recession. By the way, I'm camping, so here's a deer. Look, it's a baby. It's so bad that one of Trump's own economic advisors thought it would be a good idea to try to explain it away by saying, don't worry, it's just because there was this weird thing where a bunch of teachers got laid off. But if you don't count that, then everything is fine. Imagine your economy being so bad that you think distracting people with laid off teachers is actually a smart idea. On top of that, this month confirms that technology employment is down 3.8% from its peak just 4 years ago, which means that in just 18 months under Donald Trump, the tech sector, which has some of the last remaining well-paying jobs, has been hit harder than it was during the Great Recession. If that's not bad enough for Trump, some of those tech layoffs won't even show up in the July report because thousands of people who were laid off in May, just like me, they were given paid exit ramps just like me. So we weren't officially unemployed until this summer, which means on top of everything else, the next couple of jobs reports are going to go from bad to worse, which I think is a pretty good slogan for the entire Trump economy.
Donald Trump just gave himself a grade of 150% on the economy. Not 90, not 100, 150.
When I see polls on the economy, I should have 150%, not 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have the greatest, this is the golden age of America.
Okay. Economists expected the U.S. to add about 80,000 jobs in July. Instead, we lost 23,000. And it gets worse. The government went back and revised May and June down by another 103,000 jobs. So the job market was weaker than we were originally told. Now, the unemployment rate did drop slightly to 4.1%. Sounds good on its own. Except the labor force shrank by 264,000 people. And if you're no longer in the labor force, you're not counted as unemployed. So that falling unemployment rate needs a little context. And while all of this is happening, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has apparently solved economic inequality.
I got sick of hearing about this K-shaped economy. I can say here definitively, K-shaped economy is over.
Real quick, if you don't speak economist, K-shaped economy basically means people at the top are doing great while everybody else is having a very different experience. But to be fair, Bessent does have some evidence that lower wage workers have gained ground lately. But definitively over? That's a huge claim. Because this week, we also found out that worker share of business output fell to 52.9%. Meanwhile, the stock market, it hit another record high the same day America learned it had lost 23,000 jobs. And Fox News, bless their hearts, they accidentally showed you the whole problem in about 10 seconds.
Minus 23,000. No rebound for the July jobs report. Negative 23,000.
No, this is great news. That's why the market's up. And now the Fed has an unemployment mandate. And so this is great news.
And there it is. 23,000 jobs disappear. Wall Street goes up and somebody on TV tells you this is great news. Now, there is a reason stocks reacted that way. A weaker jobs report makes another Fed rate hike less likely, and that's usually good news for stocks. But if you're one of the people who just lost their job, congratulations on the Dow, I guess. Economist Justin Wolfers puts the job report a little differently.
Answer is a whole lot worse than people expected. We actually lost jobs in July. That wasn't meant to happen. That's not in the script. That's going backwards.
And that's the disconnect. I'm not telling you the economy has collapsed. It hasn't. Unemployment is still relatively low. Corporate profits are strong. The stock market is setting records. Some parts of the economy are doing extremely well. That's the point. Trump says he deserves 150%. Bessent says the divide is over. But the stock market isn't the household economy. People live on paychecks. They need jobs. They pay rents. They buy groceries, and they know exactly how far their money goes. Trump can give himself 150% all he wants. The July jobs report gave him a minus 23,000.
The jobs report this morning revealed America lost 23,000 jobs because of Trump's disastrous agenda, his tariffs, and his failed war. The only person who ought to lose their job right now is Donald Trump. Trump sowed mayhem in our economy with his costly war, with his chaotic and inconsistent economic policies, and with his nonstop corruption. But he's not suffering the consequences. Working Americans are. Trump cost America 23,000 jobs last month. But he has the gall to call this, quote,
We have the greatest economy maybe in the history of the world for any country.
What planet is he on? Does he not care at all about the people? The 300 and some odd million Americans he represents? It's cruel and callous to the people who are no longer earning a salary.
Well, we're doing very well with the black jobs, African-American jobs. I saw some numbers that we're doing really well.
I'm more confused than you are because I didn't know there was a such thing as black jobs. Now, if you're wondering how we're here, A reporter asked Donald Trump about the unemployment rate being a steady 4.3%. Then he mentioned about the black unemployment rate being at 7.3%, and Donald Trump immediately mentioned these factory jobs.
Numbers that we're doing really well. But where we're really going to do well is when all these plants are open. You know, black worker is really going to do well is when those factories open. So I think they're going to be great. We've been doing well. It's been a big focus for me.
See, first it was the fields. Now they trying to factor in factory jobs, as if we're not qualified to do nothing else. But inquiring minds want to know, what did you take from this? Was it as clear for you as it was for me? Like, I can't make this shit up. This shit is recorded for everyone to see. Count me out.
What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
Mr. President,
they're taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people. I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that.
Holy shit, I have some huge news for you. You're not going to want to miss this. So the United States officially lost a net of 23,000 jobs in the month of July 2026. The USA was expected and anticipating to add 85,000 jobs. This is a 100,000 job swing / miscalculation. Real quick, before my crash out, make sure you're interacting with this video in 3 ways: a like, a comment, a share, a repost on your story. I'm shadow banned right now, and it is BS. It sucks. So help me break it. Help me break it. Thank you so much. This is objectively really bad data. Additionally, they are revising the job numbers down from the month of June. So they fluffed up those numbers in June to make it look better. That's being revised down. And they're openly coming out saying, hey, we lost 23,000 jobs net in July. That is objectively terrible data. There's no other way to spin it. Some of the worst data since the year 2020. Okay, where do we go from here? Well, we have to, at first, start having these difficult conversations about why this is such a problem. My opinion is because of course, corporate greed, and more specifically using AI to automate a lot of positions and just fill that role with automated work as opposed to human life. But you're welcome to comment what you think. Make sure that you give a like, a repost, a comment, and a share, and I'll give you more news here soon.
Federal employees that are losing their jobs right now, I feel for you, I really do. A little logical truth is that you've lost a job that's not a necessity for the U.S. government at the moment. This is due to overhiring by your previous bosses, not your current one. If a company is taken over, the first thing that happens is cuts are being made. Firings happen until that company becomes profitable again. A country has to become profitable or it falls apart. We're $36 trillion in debt as far as you know. I understand your frustration as your income will disappear and your safe until now position will also be gone as well. You'll find another job. But you have to understand, if 100 people can do the same work as 300 people did until now, sorry, but those 200 people need to go. With the deficit growing and our interest payments getting out of hand, we're basically destroying our kids' future, guys. It should be a pretty easy concept to understand, as most of you worry about climate change and that affecting our children's future. Now let's take one for the team here as well and sacrifice a little bit and save our kids' financial future for a change. Or is this situation affecting you directly too much instead of somebody else, and the sacrifice is not really your thing at the moment?
Fox News has just reported that in July, the United States lost over 23,000 jobs. In July alone, people are losing their jobs. People are not able to find suitable workplaces. People are struggling with healthcare bills, childcare, and Donald Trump is getting on social media. The president of the United States is getting on social media complaining about how we need to build a ballroom at the people's house. We need to build a ballroom at the people's house for national security. He's worrying about building, your president is worrying about building a ballroom for national security while we're still at war with Iran. And people are losing their jobs. People are losing their homes. Fox News, right? You know, everything else is fake news. So we had to go to the real news, Fox News, and they just couldn't spin it. Wall Street Journal estimated we've lost over 103,000 jobs in May and June combined. Mind you, the midterms are in a couple of months. And if you know anything about politics, if you understand trend, you know the president or the political party who is doing the most harm to the economy, to the American people in their pockets, or the political party who always loses the midterm. Every single time. Let's keep that in mind.
So now let's combine everything together. 23,000 jobs are just gone. We're just barely moving, people leaving the workforce because they've just given up looking. And this isn't happening in vacuum, but this is happening under the administration that promised over and over that this was going to be the greatest economy in American history. Jobs, jobs, jobs. That was a pitch. And look, I'm not saying that one jobs report tells the whole story, but this isn't the first week report this year, and it's not going to be the last if this trend holds. When you promise working class Americans that you are the one who is going to bring the jobs back, and then the teachers are getting cut, retail workers are getting cut, hospitality workers are getting cut, that is not actually the talking point. That is someone's groceries, that is someone's rent, or someone's kids' tuition that you are cutting out. The people in these scripts are not the economists. They are the spinning numbers of the headlines. They are just people trying to figure out how they are going to make it work. So however you voted and whatever you believe, watch these reactions and ask yourself, is this what was promised? Because I don't think it is. And I think people deserve better than being told everything fine when the numbers and their own lives are saying otherwise. That is my final take on this video. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure that you drop your ideas in the comment section of how you understand this government and their MAGA movement, if they are really doing what they promised their people to do. And like this video if you find it to be interesting, share it to your friend, and let's meet in the next video, which is coming very